This presentation will focus on the work done by British archaeologist Howard Carter and his unveiling of the tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun in 1922. The study will showcase how the opening of Tutankhamun's burial chamber helped to spread knowledge of ancient Egyptian culture around the world, as well as how research done by Carter has also influenced archaeologists today, specifically Nicholas Reeves and his current study that the burial chamber of Queen Nefertiti lays joined with cells. King Tutankhamun was the last of the 18th dynasty of Egypt. Although he is regarded as an iconic Egyptian figure today, he ruled for only a short 9 years of Egyptian history. Much of his reign was spent restoring the traditional polytheistic beliefs of the ancient Egyptians, as well as navigating the foreign policy that his father Akhenaten had rejected, hoping that his actions would regain the favor of the gods for his kingdom, until his untimely death in 1323 BCE, after which he was mummified and laid to rest in his tomb in the Valley of the Kings. As some background, Howard Carter has been doing work in the Valley of the Kings since the age of 17. However, around 1907, Carter began his associations with George Herbert, the 5th Earl of Carnarvon, a collector of antiquities. Lord Carnarvon funded Carter's research as well as hired him to supervise excavations of the valley. Eventually, Herbert's funding paid off with the initial discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb on November 4, 1922, then the official opening of the chamber on November 6 of that year. Carter then spent the next 10 years supervising the removal and care of the artifacts, and to this day, that Carter is the most noted for his contributions to Egyptology and the discovery of Tutankhamun's resting place. Arguably, the most notable aspect of Tutankhamun's legacy derives from his burial tomb. Ancient Egyptians believed strongly in the concept that there was an afterlife that was disconnected from earthly context. Burial tombs served as a point of transition from one world to the next. Tombs were constructed to ensure a soul's survival during the passage. And burial chambers, especially those of pharaohs, contain lavish grave goods, which the deceased soul would bring into the afterlife. Unfortunately, high-status burial chambers were often targets for grave robbing, which is why, on November 26, 1922, when Howard Carter and his partner George Herbert entered Tutankhamun's tomb, they were amazed to find it remarkably intact. It can be said that the fact that Tutankhamun's tomb lay relatively undisturbed was critical in helping spread the knowledge of the pharaohs. For example, in the book The Tomb of Tutankhamun, discovered by the late Earl of Carnarvon and Howard Carter, Volume 2, Carter describes how the preserved tomb allowed him to gain more of an understanding of Egyptian burial customs, religious beliefs, traditions, and art. Furthermore, in his book, Carter explains the excitement of opening the undisturbed shrine that held the coffin of King Tutankhamun. He says, quote, "Here was a great piece of luck, as manifestly behind these two seals should be dealing with material unharmed since the burial of the king." End quote. Carter then explains in detail how the preserved burial chamber allowed him to see the mummification process, even expressing how the bandages on the mummy would have been brand new at the time of burial, but also to the tiny detail that extra anointment had been poured on Tutankhamun's feet. Another point that should be noted is that the uncontaminated setting of King Tutankhamun's tomb allowed for the murals and grave goods to remain pristine, allowing historians, archaeologists, and anthropologists alike to have an archaeological record of the traditions and customs of Egyptian culture at the time. For example, in the article Burial and the Dead of Ancient Egypt Society, authors John Vianis and Peter Larkova explain, especially in terms of ancient Egyptian traditions, quote, "Ideals are expressed in a normative mortuary monuments and in text. The archaeological record testifies to realities." End quote. Furthermore, in a review of the book The Genesis of British Egyptology, 1549 to 1906, by John David Wortham, George W. Stocking, Jr. states that the study of Egyptology and the artifacts produced and allows for modern historians and anthropologists to rediscover, quote, "ancient languages, systems of thought, and literature as a great importance to the history of humankind." End quote. However, excavation of King Tutankhamun's tomb and work started by Howard Carter continues to take place today. Archaeologist Nicholas Reeves believes that the burial chamber of the famed Queen Nefertiti may lay alongside that of Tutankhamun's, in a hidden chamber. In a journal written by Carter back in 1922, he states that, quote, "The unfamiliar plan of the tomb repeatedly caused us to ask ourselves in our perplexity whether it was a tomb or a royal cache." End quote. and this is the grounds for Reeves to believe that the Egyptian queen known for her beauty may be buried there. As some background information, Queen Nefertiti ruled Egypt alongside her husband King Akhenaten from 1353 to 1336 BCE. Nefertiti also took an active role in helping her husband establish the Aten cult, or the monotheistic belief in the sun god, the same belief system that Tutankhamun tried to disestablish during his reign. It is said that Queen Nefertiti was one of the most powerful women to have ever ruled. Akhenaten went to great lengths to prove his queen as his equal. However, after 12 years of ruling, she vanishes, leaving questions about her whereabouts, making the assumption by Nicholas Reeves even more of an intriguing idea. Furthermore, Nicholas Reeves is the director of the Amarna Royal Tombs Project, as well as the senior Egyptologist with the University of Arizona. He received his Ph.D. from Durham University for his thesis, Studies in the Archaeology of the Valley of the Kings, and, according to the article from CNN, has begun doing fieldwork at the site of Tutankhamun's tomb to test his theory that Queen Nefertiti's burial chamber lays hidden behind an enclosed wall. According to the news source, as well as a journal article published on ProQuest, Reeves made his discovery of Nefertiti's grave by studying high-resolution photos of the inside of Tutankhamun's burial chamber. He believes that a certain spot on the wall located in the chamber reveals what could be a passage or a doorway. Moreover, on September 28th of this year, Reeves and Madhu El-Damati, the country's Minister for Antiquities, will enter the boy king's tomb with state-of-the-art equipment such as X-rays to see what they can uncover. In conclusion, it should also be noted that with the opening of King Tutankhamun's tomb not only sparked the interest of archaeologists, anthropologists, and historians. The opening of the tomb caught the eye of the public as well. People became keen to understand the mysteries of the Egyptian pharaohs. When Howard Carter broke the seal of Tutankhamun's burial chamber back in 1922, hundreds of precious artifacts were exposed for the world to see. In the article, In the Tomb of Tutankhamun, Orchestrating Mysteries and Curiosity under Guidance of Egyptian Art Museum, Emmanuel Grimaud explains how museum settings allow for both the preservation of the artifacts in ideal conditions and still allow for there to be a relationship between the piece and the visitor. Grimaud says, quote, "The enigma of Tutankhamun has taken unexpected forms, giving us remarkable opportunity to think about the anthropological implications of assisted curiosity."